Hello, everybody. This is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. And this webinar this week is going to be on the Lightning Conductor, and we've got a new release of the Lightning Conductor, which we're going to be talking about inside this session, as well as giving a good introduction as to what the Lightning Conductor is for anybody that is new to the product. So first of all, I just want to introduce Lightning Tools. So Lightning Tools is a company that has been providing different tools and web parts for Microsoft SharePoint since early 2007. So we're in our 15th year of providing software for SharePoint. And we've also got our sister company in Lightning, which is a company that specializes in providing guidance and coaching for the Power Platform and also SharePoint and Teams as well. So Lightning Tools is providing different products, as we mentioned. So we've got a portfolio of different tools, and all of these are addressing gaps or providing more efficiency inside of SharePoint through our tool sets, such as through permissions management, content aggregation, which of course we're going to be talking about today. And we also have our discussion board tool, which is Social Squared, which we talked about last month. And we've also got some data integration and list form design tools. So of course, all of these can be found on our website by going to lightningtools.com. And on the homepage, you'll find a link out to the product for both SharePoint on-premises and also for SharePoint Online. So jumping into today's agenda, we're going to start off, as I mentioned, with an introduction to the Lightning Conductor. And if you are familiar with the Lightning Conductor already, hopefully you'll still pick up some tips and tricks as we go through the Lightning Conductor in SharePoint Online, especially the SPFX and modern experience. And we'll also be looking at that inside of Teams as well. So not just in SharePoint, but actually adding the Lightning Conductor to a Teams tab so we can aggregate content out to where most people are working nowadays, back out into Microsoft Teams. And we'll be doing different types of roll-up. So we'll be doing some roll-ups using the quick configuration across SharePoint lists and also other apps as well that come with Microsoft 365. So things like Planner and Microsoft To Do, OneDrive items and things like that. And we'll also be looking at the different ways of building views of content using the Lightning Conductor. So the grid view and applying things like conditional formatting and grouping to those views, as well as some of the built-in and customizable JSON views as well. So we'll explore all of those options, and we'll also get into the advanced settings as well. So using advanced, we'll also do some content aggregation from SharePoint lists and libraries, and also from the Microsoft Graph and Search. And then we're going to jump into what's new. So we'll have a look at version 4, which is being launched as we speak. So you'll find, at least by tomorrow, you'll be able to download version 4 from our website. It might take a few more days in order to be able to download it from the app source, because that has to go through some testing from Microsoft as well as from Lightning Tools. So yeah, we'll have a look at the brand new feature on how to aggregate content from Microsoft 365 group apps. So this is a whole new way of actually navigating to where your content is. So of course, Microsoft groups, they have lots of different content in them, not just SharePoint lists through the SharePoint site that comes with groups, but also other content as well, such as messages, Planner, OneDrive items and people as well, so members and owners and that type of thing. So we'll have a look at how we can query that content and build a view on that content, again using a grid view or also using JSON views in order to be able to display that information centrally. And we're going to wrap up today's webinar by taking a look at connecting the Lightning Conductor to two other products. One of them is a free product. It's called the Lightning Filters. So with that, you can provide filters to the Lightning Conductor. And the purpose of that is to either filter the content inside the Lightning Conductor or also apply conditional formatting through the Lightning Filters web part. So there's all sorts of different types of filters that you can provide through that web part, and makes a great addition if you're building out a page as like a dashboard of aggregated content, so you can centrally filter everything on that page. And we'll also take a look at the data viewer as well, which is another SPFX tool that you can use to connect to external data as well as SharePoint aggregated content through the Lightning Conductor, but also being able to display charts on that information. So it may be that you want to display a pie chart or a tree map or gauges or a combo chart of some sort based on the content that you've aggregated using the Lightning Conductor web part. And right at the very end, there's going to be lots of time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to make a note of them as we go along. And right at the end, you can pop those into the chat window, or you can drop us an email afterwards as well, and we'll be able to address your question privately. Okay, so let's get on with it. So first of all, just a few use cases for the Lightning Conductor, just in case you are new to this content. So if you think of Microsoft 365 and the type of information that you provide, there's all sorts of information that is organized into sites, into teams, via lists and libraries, but also through other applications like Planner and like Microsoft To Do and that type of thing. So, so lots of content being created. And of course, you've got the ability to navigate to that content through the out-of-the-box applications, and you can also search for that content as well using search in Microsoft 365. But one of the challenges is we don't always know what to search for. So there may be content that our team is creating and we don't actually even know it exists yet. And also navigating is, of course, time-consuming. And so is search sometimes as well. So the benefit of using any form of content aggregation is that content, the content that's relevant and contextual to you and the job that you perform can actually come to you. And the Lightning Conductor actually allows you to build different views of this content. So it could be views of tasks that you have in task lists, as well as tasks that you have in To Do, or tasks that people are assigning you through Microsoft Planner. You can also bring documents in from different sites. So rather than navigating to different document libraries in different sites and in different teams to see what's being created, that content can be aggregated into a view and can be made relevant based on the metadata that's associated with that content, or where that content is also stored as well. And of course, everything that gets aggregated is all security trimmed. So you're not going to be able to see anything that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to navigate to using SharePoint or the other apps. So it helps reduce the time in searching, and also the time in navigating. So literally that content can be surfaced inside a modern SharePoint page. It can be surfaced through a Microsoft Teams site, and can also be displayed on a mobile device via either the SharePoint or the Teams app as well. So introducing the Lightning Conductor. So we've got the ability to aggregate SharePoint lists and library content. So this is what the product was originally created for. Right back in 2007, we first created the Lightning Conductor, and its job was to allow you to aggregate content from across different site collections in SharePoint on premises. And it's really evolved from that. But yeah, back then, that's what the task was. So you could bring tasks and aggregate them all into one place, or you could bring contacts all into one place, or even documents. So that's still possible today, either via the object model, where we're iterating through those items in real time and displaying that content, or also we can do the same thing using search as well. So using search, you get the benefit of performance, but basically it's cached information. But you can really bring back vast amount of content using search and display that very quickly on a page. So we offer both the API in order to be able to display that content, as well as through search as well. And we can use Microsoft Planner if, we can use Microsoft Graph if we want to get to other content as well, such as Planner, Microsoft To Do, OneDrive, and really anything that is accessible through the Microsoft Graph. And we offer 3 different ways of displaying the content. There's the grid view, which actually allows us to select which columns we want to display, and that is something that doesn't have to be set in stone. You can add and remove columns to that. You can add conditional formatting and grouping and data bars, that type of thing. It now offers the people card as well, as you can see in the screenshot there for this tasks rollup. But also there's some built-in JSON views that are specific to different scenarios. So you can display content inside of calendars, or in tile views, or also even even in planner views as well. And those JSON views are also customizable. So if you wanted to take a example of what we've provided out of the box with the Lightning Conductor and make it your own, you can also do that as well, or even create your own JSON view from scratch. Okay, so that's enough of talking, or slides at least. Anyway, let's jump into the SharePoint environment and we'll start to aggregate some content. So what we've got here is a hub site called Lightning Tools Software, and in it is a bit of content. We've also got some other associated sites as well. And of course, that hub and associated site topology is available in modern SharePoint, but also if you're still using classic site collections, you can use the Lightning Conductor against that type of environment as well. So what we're going to do is first of all go through and build ourselves a page. So I'm going to add a page here. So this is being created from scratch, and there's a couple of ways actually of working with the Lightning Conductor or any SPFX app. You can select the app itself, and that app becomes an entire page, or you can select one of the modern pages and create one of those. So I'm going to create a blank page here, and I'm going to give it a name of Lightning Conductor webinar. Okay, and on that page, we can go through and add the web parts. I'm just going to simply click onto the plus and choose from the frequently used web parts. I'm going to select the Lightning Conductor. So we've got the Lightning Conductor open. And if you're new to the SPFX version of the Lightning Conductor, you'll notice that there's a blue configure button right in the middle. I'm going to click onto that, and it takes us to the quick configuration. So you can get to the advanced mode from here, which is very granular. You've got lots of different options in there for performing aggregations, but this quick configuration is just a great way to get started and to roll up content quickly. So in here we've built in a few different scenarios that a lot of our customers are using, so you can apply those easily. And in here we've got a drop-down list, first of all, of that type of content. So you'll notice that we've got documents all the way at the top there. So these are documents that live inside of document libraries. We've also got tasks and events and announcements, all of which are SharePoint lists. But we've also got some other things as well that are coming from Graph, like messages and users. We've got planner plans and planner tasks and Microsoft To Do, and there's OneDrive items and Outlook events as well. So all of that can be selected from here as a starting point. So we're going to start off with a document library rollup. So I'm just going to select documents, and we've got a few common ways of refining it. And these refinements are basically just filters on the all documents. So we've got all documents, which is effectively going to bring back all of the documents from whatever scope I select here. We could also bring back my documents, which has a filter on the modified by and the created by columns. So it's just bringing back the content that is relevant to me as the current user. So that, of course, will be dynamic based on whichever user is visiting this page. And we've also got my checked out documents as well as another view. So I'm going to leave this one on all documents. We can select where the content is going to come from. And this isn't the exhaustive list of where the content is going to come from. There's more granular options if you go into the advanced mode, but we do have some useful ones in here, like current site collection or current site and associated sites if you're using the hub site topology. And we've also got some other wider scopes as well, like current tenant and things like that as well. So I'm going to select the current site and associated sites since I'm in a hub and I've got some associated sites here. And we've also got a couple of different ways of displaying that content as well. So there's a grid view, or there's also a tile view since we're aggregating documents. And there's, of course, different views depending on the type of content. So for tasks or events, we've got calendar layouts and things like that that we can choose from. And one of the other options is to display the person avatars. So that's with the created by and the modified by columns. We can render those out as avatars, which you'll see here as we display our content. Okay, so we've got the content loading, and in here, this is real time using the object model. So 3 pages of documents coming from this hub and the associated sites. And as you can see, by default, we've got the folder structure, so you can expand and collapse those folders. You can actually make those folders collapse by default if you want to. We've got things like the created date and modified date and all of the sort of information that we'd need to know about those documents. Plus, we've got the ability to add additional columns if we want to. So as I mentioned, this is really just a starting point for getting a view using the quick configuration. If you want to add any of the columns, you can do that by simply clicking the drop down anywhere, going down to column settings, and you can show or hide columns. Now these columns that you can show here are all related to the document libraries in this case. So you're not going to see columns that are not related to any document libraries in here. And one of the ones I'm going to bring back is actually parent web title. So it's actually useful to know which site these documents are coming from. So you can see that column has been added to the right-hand side of my view. And what we can do here is also go through and group by that column as well. So as I group by that, that gets applied, and now we've got several layers of groups. So we've got the first layer being the site, and then the second layer being the folder structure. And as we navigate through that content, you'll see there's some other sites here in my hub and associated site topology, and we can go through and access those files from there. Okay, so that's going through and adding an additional column, and you'll also see there's the ability to apply other options in here as well. So you can come under the more settings. We can go through and set the date formatting or any type of any type of data formatting we like, and there's also a number of other properties in here as well that we can apply, including custom formatting. So we can go through and apply that, and we've now got the short date. So it's really quick and easy to work with the Lightning Conductor from that point of view. You don't have to always go into the dialog. Now what I'm going to do is name this view. So we're going to call this documents. And with the Lightning Conductor, we can actually create multiple views. So we're going to add a new view. So notice we now have new view 1, and we're going to go through and configure this one. First, I'm going to give it a name, and this is going to be tasks. So just another example of aggregating content. We're going to go through and select tasks, which are SharePoint lists. I'm going to return all tasks, and they're going to come also from the current site and associated sites. And notice that we can render those either in a calendar, which we'll get to see a bit later on, or the grid view. And once more, we can go through and display avatars. So we have the drop down with the two views, and these views can be loaded simply by selecting them, or you can also select these views from a Lightning Filters web part, which we'll be looking at later on as well. So this is a aggregation of task lists. You'll notice here that we've got some conditional formatting already applied. Again, we've got the people cards in here. So as we hover over a user, we can actually go through and interact with that user or see a little bit more about them. And we can also go through and again, add additional columns, including calculated columns. So in here, when we go to the show column, you'll notice that we've not got the start date displayed. So I'm going to go through and select the start date, and now we can see that inside our view as well. And of course, we might want to go through and apply the short date formatting. Okay, so we've got that. We could also apply some formatting to the priority column. So if I wanted to go through and add some conditional formatting, we could have, for example, any high priority tasks are applied with a certain color. So we can maybe choose an icon or something like that and a color for that icon. So this could be a custom color such as red, and we can choose where we want that icon to appear and whether we want just the icon and so on. So really straightforward to go through and apply that, and we can have multiple conditions in here. So we'll go through and quickly choose an amber or thereabouts. And that will be for our medium or normal priority tasks, and we'll have low priority tasks here in green. Okay, so as you can see, it's very quick and easy to go through and apply that sort of conditional formatting to our views. Okay, so that's a couple of different examples using real-time object model in order to be able to aggregate content. Now, what I want to do now is show you how we can also bring back content using search. So I'm going to call this one documents, but this time we'll just put by search so we know what this is. And we'll click onto the cog icon again. And we can do all of this using the quick configuration. I'm just going to choose the documents, again, all documents, and we're going to go down to the current tenant this time. But rather than using the current tenant using the object model, we're going to do current tenant using the search engine. So all of this information will be already cached in the search index, and we can display the avatars again in that scenario. And as you'll see, when we select the documents coming from search, we've got this automatically paginated. We've got 113 pages of documents that we can go through and navigate inside that environment. So using search is one option. And again, that can be done for any of the different list types and so on that you want to perform. So another couple of views are from Microsoft Graph. So we've covered the API. We're going to jump onto Graph now. So I'm going to aggregate my Microsoft To-Do items. And if you've not used To-Do, I recommend it. It's really great for your personal to-do lists. So I've got Microsoft To-Do running in this environment. So I'm going to go down here to To-Do lists and select that. So that becomes my my selection, how I want to refine it. It's using Microsoft Graph in order to get to that. So this is not SharePoint content. This is coming from Microsoft To-Do. And this time we're going to jump away from the grid view and select this task view here. So when I save that, you'll notice that we can now hit the drop down and select Microsoft To-Do. Now, inside of Microsoft To-Do, I actually have multiple lists that I've organized. So I can hit the drop down here and notice that we've got some different lists where we can go through and access our tasks within those lists. And not only can we access them, but we can also mark them as completed. So we can check that icon. We can also delete the tasks if we want to, or we can even add them as well. So notice if we want to actually do this via Teams or via SharePoint, then we absolutely can do. So I'll just put record webinar. There we go, and put a date on that one. And that's it. We can just add that, and that's now been created inside that To-Do. Okay, so that's how we can work with Microsoft Graph, Search, and the object model, all using that quick configuration. So super fast to use. So I'm going to jump onto a couple of other examples, but this time let's go into the advanced mode. So we're going to create a new view, and this again will be documents, but I'm going to use the advanced dialog to configure it. So forgetting all of this, we'll just jump straight into the advanced mode. And in here, like I say, you can be very specific about how you want to build your views. You're basically building everything from scratch, and you've got all of the options available to you. So in here, in the drop-down, first of all, we've got a choice of what Rollup provider we want to use. And we're going to save the last one here until the new feature discussion. So that's the brand new feature that we're releasing in version 4, which is this month. But above that, we've got 3 other Rollup providers. So first one is search, and then we've got the object model, and then the graph Rollup provider. So if we were to use the object model, first of all, we're using that object model to bring back real-time content. We can then go through and select the way that we want to view that content. So there's the grid view, which is how we can add and remove columns ourselves, just simply by going through and selecting them and adding the conditional formatting and so on. There's JSON, where we can access some of our built-in views, or you can create your own customized ones as well. And there's also XSLT if you so choose. So we'll go through and select the grid view provider first of all. And there's a couple of other refinements as well about automatically refreshing this content and viewing some statistics about how long that content's taking to aggregate and that type of thing. And then when we go to the data source tab, this is where each of our site collections are all displayed. So from this, this site collection here, we can go through and navigate into it and select any of the sites that we want to aggregate from. And we can make that a bit more granular. So if we want to specify individual lists, we can do that. Or if we want to stay high level and say this is just from multiple site collections and it's any of those site collections that I select and I'm interested in just document libraries or I'm interested in task lists, we can go through and choose the type of list that we're aggregating from those wider scopes. So the option that I'm going to go for is the current site and associated sites again. And the list type is going to be document library. So we've specified that. We could also specify a content type if we wanted to be specific about the type of documents, or we can just leave that as is. And as you can see, we've also got some other refinements as well about item limits and things like that that we can go through and set. So I'm going to jump down to the columns tab, and in here you'll see that we've got all of the columns available with document libraries, and we can simply go through and select these. You can drag them and drop them in the order that you want them to appear in. So we can grab the title, or actually better still for documents, we can grab the name, because not everybody fills out that title. We've also got things like created by and created date that we can go through and set and so on. So we can choose those columns, and when we go down to the display, this is where we can set how we want them to be displayed. So the name column, for example, I could hide the file extension because they start to look a little bit ugly when you're aggregating those into a view. The created date we can show here as a short date, and the created by we can show as a person avatar with a link to that user as well. You'll notice some other properties in here that you can set. So you can do grouping. We can also set aliases and things like that, as well as our formatting and make them filterable and things like that. There's also a bunch of other properties behind each of these fields here that you can select. And a couple that I am going to set are down here. So we can expand the grouping and linking section. This allows me to open up those documents. We can show things like the document icon. We can show the submenu if we want to as well. And we can also group by folders. So all of these are different refinements that we can set as we go through. And there's also your pagination as well that you can choose. Okay, I can see there's lots of questions coming in. I will address those towards the end of the webinar. So great that you're putting those into the chat window so I can read them out shortly. Okay, so I'm just going to save this, and we've got a new view, so Documents Advanced, and let's go to that. So notice we can select that view. There's a view that we created from scratch, and we can still start to customize it if we want to from here. So we don't have to go back into that advanced mode if we just want to show additional columns or add grouping and conditional formatting and that type of thing. All right, so that's another view that we've created, and I'm just going to go through and create another one. So this is going to be documents again, but we're going to use search and advanced. Okay, so as we go into this one, again, once more, straight into the advanced mode, and on the search Rollup provider in a grid view, we're going to go through and configure this. So notice that this data source tab is entirely different to what it was before. We're no longer selecting site collections or anything like that. We're actually specifying a search result. So there's lots of search results that you can choose from. And one of them here is items matching a content type, which is the one that I use most regularly. So we can go through and choose that. And if we are choosing that, then of course we need to tell it what content type we're interested in. So these query template variables will change depending on what type of result source you're calling. So my content type is basically going to be document. And if you had any custom content types, they will show in that drop down as well. So that's my search result. So I'm basically saying search for any documents, and going to the columns tab, I can now go through and choose the columns that I want to display. Now this is where it differs a little bit from using standard columns inside a library, because these are actually coming from search. So they're a little bit different. You've got things like author rather than created. We have title, which should be mapped to name. So we can go through and choose that and drop that before author. There we go. And there's also things like file size and things like that that we can go through and choose from as well. So we can select those columns, but of course I might have some custom columns that I've created. And what we can do is actually just take this URL as I'm navigating away from my settings, and let's just drop that in here. And in a separate site called Technical Support, in there is a document library. And you'll notice in here, we've just got a bunch of folders, and there's a custom column called product. And it's got some of the different products that we offer associated with each of these different folders. So that's just completely a custom column. And in the search properties, I've mapped that custom column to a crawled managed column, which you can do through the SharePoint admin panel. And I've named it product in there. So when we go through and select these different columns from the list, what I can do is click onto the plus icon here, and this allows me to add any mapped properties. So I've created this one called product, and I can add that. And if you want to know how to set this up, there's a training video that we have as well in our site. But that's basically added product to this view as well. So I can go through and select it and display that inside my view. So we've got those set. Again, I could go through and set all the display formats. So author could be, the avatar again, size, we can set that in kilobytes, megabytes, and gigabytes, and so on. And we can hide the extension again on the title column. So all of the same sort of options. We can set our pagination, display the document icon and set a link and that type of thing. And as we hit save, we'll now have a brand new view called documents, which is being driven by search, and we're set in the advanced mode. Okay, and we've got the product column. Of course, it's null for most of these because there's only one document library that's using that custom column. So I'm just going to sort this into descending order or ascending order, or not. Let me just go through and check what I did there. So we're using search. Damn, that was there. Well, yeah, I've got that. I'm not sure why that's not displaying now. Because I said it was easy, that's why. Anyway, let's move on, and maybe I'll answer that in one of the questions a little bit later. But yeah, I was hoping, obviously, to be able to see that custom column. It even worked in my practice session. So anyway, you can display custom columns if you want to in that way. So that's search using the advanced mode. And we'll just do one more before we move on to the brand new features. So this one is actually going to be planner using advanced. And that's going to come from Microsoft Graph. So again, we could do that from the quick configuration. Planner is an option in here, but I'm just going to go to the advanced mode to show you how we could do that. So in here, we've got a drop down. The graph Rollup engine provider is an option. In the grid view, or also a JSON provider. I'm going to choose a JSON provider for this one. When we go to the data source tab, we've got different entities that you can select. So these are all Microsoft Graph entities. And one of them here is we've got planner plan, or we've got planner task. So we can go through and select that. You can choose your columns. The only real relevance that this has is if you want to apply any filters, which you can do from here. And I think I just saw a question about filters a minute ago. So you can filter each column from in here, and these can be dynamic. And you've also got very advanced filters at the top here. So if you want to add filters with ORs, and you can have sub filters and things like that in here, you can go through and do all of that from that view. So I'm not going to apply any filters on this one, but on my display, what I am going to do is come down here to choose planner tasks. So that's just one of the JSON views that we can choose, and there's a few refinements in there as well if you want to use those. I'm missing something on here. Oh yeah, my query. So I selected planner task. I need to add a query. Now, here's some predefined queries, or you can do custom queries. So a predefined one is users planner tasks. So I'm just going to go with that one and hit save. So as we choose that now, we can choose Planner Advanced. And this is where my webinar all starts going wrong. So yeah, I obviously missed something there. Let's just add that using the quick config so I can show you it. Let's do planner tasks in here. Oh, sorry, planner plans. That's what I did. I chose planner tasks, not planner plans. So yeah, choosing planner plans, we can go through and select a planner. So there's a few here to choose from, and that shows me all the tasks associated with those planners. And we can also add a task as well. So I'll just call this my new task. And in here, we can choose a bucket in that plan, and we can choose the date and time that it's to be completed by, and who do we want to assign that to. So all of that can be set inside that JSON view. And let's just name that planner and show you that, yeah, when you jump into the advanced mode on this one, you can see it's using graph, it's using JSON. The data source is set to planner plan. That's where I went wrong. And there's my query in here. So long story short, the quick view is your friend. So yeah, you can see how that was basically selected inside that view. Okay, so that's scratching the surface on the capabilities of the Lightning Conductor so far for building lots of different views of content inside your environment. Before we sort of move on to the new features, what I'm going to do is export this. So I'm exporting that configuration out, and let's publish this page. And the whole reason for exporting is I don't want to put you through all of that again in Teams. So what I'm going to do is actually just jump into Teams here and add the Lightning Conductor to this team. So we'll choose that. And of course, most people are doing all of their work in Teams now, and not so much SharePoint, because this is where you're having your meetings and things like that. So I can add the Lightning Conductor there, and rather than configuring all of that again, I can just simply import it. So we'll choose a file to import from, and it's brought back all of those views that we just created, and we could make it different if we wanted to. So it becomes independent here inside of Teams. But yeah, here's all your views. So you can see your planner plans, your Microsoft to-do items, your documents that are coming back via search, and all of that is to hand inside of Teams, like I said, where you're doing all of your work. And if you're in IT, then it's very important that you, of course, switch across to the dark mode. So inside the dark mode, you can see that that's fully supported, not just in the grid view, but also in JSON views as well. So you can see that that is all applied to those views, which is good stuff. Okay, so yeah, same sort of thing can be done inside of Teams. You can add new views, and all of that is actually done through the settings here. So you choose settings on the drop down, and this is where you can come back in and start creating some new views to your content inside of Teams. Okay, so back to the slides for a moment. We've got a brand new feature to talk about. It's actually really the only feature that we're releasing. We usually release about 6 features every 4 months, but this one's a biggie. So it's really the only feature, and it's a brand new Rollup provider, as mentioned. So the purpose of it is to allow you to aggregate content by navigating Microsoft 365 groups. So of course we can kind of do that anyway, because you can use Microsoft Graph to get at Planner, as you've just seen, and to get at your files, even if they're in OneDrive. But it's a bit confusing to the business user to actually select the scope, because you have to build these custom queries. And although you're not really writing code, you do still need to query Microsoft Graph, which isn't that intuitive to most business users. So what we have built is a Rollup provider that allows you to go through and select your teams or your Microsoft 365 groups, so that you can choose where that content is going to come from. And that content can be some of these things. There's a few more as well, and it is powered by Microsoft Graph, but you just don't have to do that work in building your queries. And those views that we're building can come from either JSON or sorry, can be displayed inside of JSON or grid views as well. So we'll jump back to the demonstration and have a look at this this new feature. And we'll do this from within SharePoint. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and edit the page again. Okay, and in this page, we're going to open up the web part properties. So we'll build another view, and we can go through and select it. Now, what I want to do is actually a really useful thing. I want to list all the members of all of my groups. So I'm going to call this one members, and I'm going to click onto the configure the view. And in here, we can go through and start to choose the new Rollup provider. So this is the Microsoft 365 group Rollup provider. And just to show you actually the sort of thing that we can do in Outlook, notice that you can go through and select all your groups from in there. And in Outlook, you can go through and choose a group, and it will show you who the members are, and you can navigate to the content through each of the different apps for that group as well. But of course, you have to go in and out of every single group in order to be able to do that. So what we're going to use the Lightning Conductor for is to just aggregate all of that content from whatever groups we specify. So we're going to do this in a grid view, and when we go to the data source tab, notice that we can actually go through and select groups now. So so these are all of our groups, and we show you which ones have been teamified. So if there is actually a Teams team behind it, it has the Teams icon. If it's just a regular group that's not teamified, then it's just the Microsoft 365 group icon. So they are all displayed here, and you can filter them because you've probably got a lot. So what we can do here is say the group name begins with Lightning, and save that. And so here's all of our groups that begin with the word Lightning. So I'm going to choose the demo hub and the sales group. So there's my two Microsoft 365 groups that I want to aggregate content from. And we could go through and add an entity type, and the entity type can be members. So in here, we'll choose members and save that. And again, there's a few refinements. So you can set an item limit or an item limit per group if you wanted to. And then on the columns tab, these are all of your columns. Now, the Microsoft Graph exposes a lot of columns, but you'll notice that there's the entity type. So you can distinguish each one. So in here against the user, I want to display the user's name, obviously. So I'm going to choose the display name for the user. And we can also choose the user type, because some of the users inside your environment are likely to not all be internal users, but you may have some external users. So as we scroll down, you should find there's a user type field, so we can choose that. And literally everything about users and the profiles are all stored inside of here and selectable. So we've got the user type, the display name, and then notice how the entity type changes to group. So I can actually get some information about what group this is coming from. So there is a group display name as well that I'll select. Okay, so they're the three columns that I want to show. And when we go to the display, notice that we've got those column values that aren't that user-friendly. So I will set an alias. I'll have username, and we'll just have type, and then we'll have group name. So that's a little bit more intuitive. And the display format, we're going to set to the avatar again. Nothing really to set on the user type. And then on the display name, we could show the avatar on that if we wanted to as well. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the same sort of group view settings that we can choose. And there's some grouping settings at the bottom here as well. I'm just going to basically click on to save. And now we can choose our members, and notice here we've got members coming in from those groups. Now, of course, it kind of makes sense to actually group by the group column, so we can do that. So this is the members from the demo hub. And just to show you that I could also go back to that data source, and rather than do selected groups, let's just do all groups. So everything else remains the same. I'll just save this, and we've now got all of the groups inside our tenant that I have access to being displayed within there. I think I needed to set the pagination options, but yeah, basically that's what that's doing. So in here you can see again with their members, with their guests, and that type of thing, which is useful to have the people card, so you can actually see who that guest is. So this is coming from perhaps a different tenant, and so on. And you can apply conditional formatting to it. So if you wanted your user type, if they are a guest, we could maybe show a different type of person column. So in here we could choose this one with a little warning symbol and make it red. And then we can add some formatting to say if the user type is a member. Then we'll have people without any color formatting. So yeah, there's our guest that stands out a little bit more when we're querying the members of those groups. Okay, so that's one view by querying the Microsoft 365 groups, and another one that we'll do is again Planner. So we can choose Planner from there. So once more into the advanced mode, I'll choose the new group Rollup provider, and when we go to the data source, we can choose some selected groups. And notice that we refine this as well to just teams, so you can have all teams or selected teams, so that will render everything that is a Microsoft team. So we can select the content from there. But I'm just going to go through some groups. Again, let's filter this based on Lightning. So it begins with Lightning, and we'll choose those two groups. And we'll also set the entity type. So notice in here you've got OneDrive items, you've got owners, planner plans, planner tasks, lists, calendar items, things like that that you can go through and select. Okay, so hopefully I'll get this right this time. So I choose planner tasks, and notice on here that we have the tasks, and we have the bucket, the planner bucket, and we also have the group that it belongs to. But what I want to do is actually use a JSON view. So what I'll do is just come back up to the web part tab, change it out to a JSON, and on our display, we will choose the planner tasks view here. And that should give me my planner tasks associated to just those two groups. And notice, yeah, they're displaying at the top. It's actually only one of the groups is using planner, so that's just the one that's displayed. But here's all of the plans and what bucket they all fall into as well. Okay, so that's the new Microsoft 365 group Rollup provider. You can literally go through and choose where your content is going to come from by using a mixture of graph and also the ability to browse your Microsoft 365 groups. So jumping back into the demo, I just want to talk a little bit about filters. And like I say, I know filters came up as some questions in here, and we'll address that. And we've also got the data viewer as well, which is another product we can use to connect to the Lightning Conductor. So the Lightning Conductor is capable of both providing connections and consuming connections. You can even connect multiple instances of Lightning Conductors together. So what we'll do here is first of all work with the data viewer. So what I'm going to do is change this section here to be 1/3 right as a panel, and this allows me to add another web part to the side of the Lightning Conductor. And the first one, we're going to just bring back tasks. So I'll select my tasks view, and we can see we've got the tasks associated here. And in the right-hand side, I'm going to add the data viewer. And the data viewer as you can see, looks similar to the Lightning Conductor in its configuration, but this actually allows us to get at external data. So it might be data that lives inside of Microsoft Excel or lives in SQL databases or is driven through an OData service and so on. But one of the options that it provides me with is to connect to a web part on the page. So we're going to choose that option. And I'm going to select a charts view. And when we go to the data source tab here, I can actually connect it to the Lightning Conductor. So we can choose that and work with all of the retrieved items inside that particular view. And when we go to the columns, there's a couple of columns that I'm going to work with here. So we'll choose the priority column and the title column. Or in fact, sorry, let's go with ID, since everything will have an ID. And then when we go to the display, notice it's given me a bit of a chart, but what we're going to do is change that to a pie chart. So this is now reflecting what's normal and low, and it's repeating that for every row that it sees. So I'm going to tell it to group. So we can actually go through and group by the priority column. So we've now got one high, one normal, one low. And the colors that it's chosen is actually pretty close to each other. So what you can do is go through and set that color in the drop down here. Now you could just choose the theme color so it blends nicely with that. Or if you wanted to change any of the colors out, I'll just randomly choose some. Notice how you can go through and set those. And in the settings here, we can also make this 3D, or we can also make it a donut chart as well by putting a hole in the middle. Okay, so we've got all of those different options that we can set, and now we've got a pie chart that is resembling the results being driven from the Lightning Conductor. So that's one example of using the Lightning Conductor with another product instance there. Now the other web part is actually to filter out the contents that are displayed inside the Lightning Conductor, and also works with the data viewer as well. And that's called the Lightning Filters web part. So this is completely free. We're going to go through and choose it. It works with both the Lightning Conductor and the data viewer. And as we choose that, it's a way of providing filter values to the Lightning Conductor so that the user doesn't have to actually go through and set their own filters in the dropdown. So if we, let's say, had documents being aggregated, and my chart's going to go crazy because that's going to, it's going to load a chart based on this view now. So we've got documents being returned here, and there's a mixture of different types of users. In fact, let's just remove this one and change my section so you can see everything a bit more clearly. That was not expected to remove my configuration. Thankfully, I exported it all. There we go. No, it actually came back again anyway. Sorry about that. Let's just delete that one and delete that one. Okay, so we're back to this single section. I guess I added a section rather than changing the section. So above this web part, we can add the Lightning Filters web part. So we'll choose that. And as I mentioned, there's a couple of different ways of setting filters anyway, even without the Lightning Filters. You can either allow the user to filter here by clicking the filter option, and they can even, I think one of the questions was regarding this, they can say equal me and apply that. And of course, that will filter out all of my documents. And that's going to be dynamic. So when they come in, they will see their documents. So regardless as to which user it is, they're going to see any documents that are associated with them. Now I can go through and clear that filter. And one of the other things that we could do is come in and apply a filter and say the filter is actually on system account or something to that effect, or whichever user. Let's do one that we can resolve. Okay, so I can choose that user and apply that. So we're actually specifying exactly what user we want to filter the results by. But it's not that sort of quick and easy to do. You have to come in, hit the drop down and apply your filter that way. So what I'm going to do is once again just clear that. And in the Lightning Filters web part, we're going to go into the properties and we can change this to different types of filter. So we've got number filters and text filters, date filters, choice filters, etc. There's even a manage metadata taxonomy filter that you can select. So, so in here, I'm going to go through and choose the people filter, and that's turned into a people filter box. And when we go back to the Lightning Conductor, in fact, let me just have that default to the current user. There we go. So when we go to our Lightning Conductor, we can bring up the properties for that and go into our documents view, and under columns, we can apply that filter to the created by. And rather than specifying the values in here, we're going to use the web part connections to actually obtain from Lightning Filters the title of the user that is set. So we can basically go through and set all of that up. And now in the Lightning Filters, notice that we can just simply come in here and add users. And the advantage is that this can be connected to multiple instances on the page. So you could have it set once, driving multiple web parts, all displaying content. Okay, so I'm aware we're sort of getting close to the finish. So just to point out the things that we've covered, so we looked at aggregating content from SharePoint and other Microsoft 365 apps. We also looked at building dynamic views with conditional formatting and so on. We aggregated some content from not just SharePoint, displayed it in SharePoint and also inside of Teams. And finally, we looked at how we can use the Lightning Conductor with other Lightning Tools apps, such as the Data Viewer and Lightning Filters. Okay, so there are a couple of resources. If you want to get more information on the Lightning Conductor, Lightning Filters, or Data Viewer, there's a link out to our website here, so just lightningtools.com, and you'll easily come across our products. And we've also got a link out to our webinars, where you'll see the recording of this one, plus the ability to register for any future webinars as well for our other products. And at that point, I'll first of all address some of these questions. So we've got one at the very top here, which is when choosing columns, will custom metadata columns appear as a selectable field? Yes. So if you do have custom columns, and if you're using the API, you can, of course, go into the properties in here, select columns, and this will show you any columns that are in common with the libraries that you're aggregating from. Now, it might be that you've got a custom column that might reside in just one of those document libraries, in which case it's not going to show by default, but you can still display it by going to the data source tab here, and under column source, you would choose the library or one of the libraries that contains your custom column, and that will then make whatever columns are in here, including custom columns, available to select on the columns tab. So, so that will show you all of your custom columns as well. If you're using search, then that's where you go through and map the crawled property, so you can get to them that way as well. So hopefully that answers your question there. Next question was, do you offer a way to custom filter? So for example, display file names over 100 characters or display file names containing special characters? Great question. So yeah, so you can again go into the filters. In fact, the filter web part would help you with that, or on the columns in here, when you click onto the filter icon, of course, these are going to change based on the type of field. So if I was to select the name column, for example, you've got all the different operators in here. So you've got equal to, less than and greater than, begins with, contains, etc. So with all of these, if there was a special character that it needs to contain or something, you can specify what that character is and get your results that way. Getting over 100 characters, I think you might need to do a bit of work. One of the things you can do is add a calculated column as well, which we didn't get to touch on. So it might be that you could actually get a count of the number of characters in a file and then filter based on that count. using the calculator column. So I'd say, yeah, that's possible. If you want to reach out to us, we'll be happy to help you with that specifically. Okay, so thank you for that one. So another question is, we currently have the Lightning Conductor version 3.1 installed in our SharePoint Online tenant. Will it automatically upgrade to the latest version, or do we need to manually upgrade it? When we upgrade to the newer version of the Lightning Conductor, will it affect the Lightning Conductor aggregation and views that we already have throughout the tenants, such as lists and calendars? Right, great question. So every 4 months, we release a new version of our product. Typically, they are major features and will require you to download and add the package again. Yeah, this release with the Microsoft 365 group aggregation will require you to add the package. That's not available on our website yet, but just to point out that you will be able to go to lightningtools.com, and under the customer area is where you will find the download center, and in there you can select the Lightning Conductor, and you'll be able to see what the current version that is on offer from here. So currently we're at 3.5, we're going to 4.0. So yeah, as soon as that's 4.0, you'll be able to download it, as well as seeing what's new and add that to your environment. We also from time to time apply hot fixes. Those you don't need to download a package for. They will be automatic. So yeah, we will notify you of that, and you'll basically get those updates applied automatically, but not the major versions. Will it affect anything that you've already created? No, it won't. They will continue to work as expected and as they were. So you can apply the package with confidence there. Okay, so is it possible to drive the results from a search box so that staff can type in a search query on the fly? So yeah, the filters, Lightning filters will do that for you. So you don't have to have a people filter like I did. This can actually be a text filter. You could apply that to then any column using the filters in the Lightning Conductor, and you can change out this to say, please search for a customer name or something that is relevant. So then they can just simply type, and that will apply the filter to the Lightning Conductor. So yeah, absolutely, you can perform that. So another great question is, can I see group info for a group I am not a member of? Fantastic question. So everything in Microsoft Graph and in Search and in the API and in the Lightning Conductor is all security trimmed. So you can't see anything that you would not ordinarily be able to see. If you don't have read access to something, it's not going to show. So yeah, you would not be able to see any groups that you don't have access to or are not a member of. Okay, so another question, a search bar is only available from the JSON view, which is much more difficult to customize the visual look and feel of. Search is one of the most common ways users find their content. Will a search bar be available at any point in the grid view? So hopefully that's addressed the question with the filter web part. It's not an additional purchase. You can help yourself to that. So grab the Lightning filters and do a web part connection out to your Lightning Conductor, and that will drive that. And of course, yeah, I'm in edit mode here. When you have maybe made some changes to the Lightning Conductor, so you can do things like hide the menu option at the top here. So you can hide all of those, and then it will look like these are sort of part and parcel of each other without having that command bar in the way. So hopefully that will help you with that one. If not, let us know and we'll help you further. Okay, so there's another good question about if you're an on-premises customer. So if you're using Lightning Conductor in SharePoint on-premises, say SharePoint 2016, and you're planning on moving to SharePoint Online soon, can you get this version? So actually, there's a couple of answers to that. If you own a perpetual license of excuse me, the Lightning Conductor for on-prem with an active software assurance program with us, and that includes any updates. What we also, which would allow you to use that inside of SharePoint Online. What we also have, since the products are entirely different, as you've seen, they offer far more configuration options and so on. We also have a customer to cloud program, which you'll find on our website. So hopefully I got this right. So the customer to cloud program is all about existing customers moving to SharePoint Online and basically holding your hand through that experience. So we'll help you with migrating your configurations and everything to the cloud. We'll help you with personalized training sessions, and you also get a solution consultant assigned to you as well to make sure that you fully understand how the new product works and so on, and get you up and running. There is a form to fill out here, so you can complete that and submit it, and that will reach out to a sales contact that can tell you a little bit more about the cloud program, and it will also help you move across to a subscription license as well in place of your software assurance. So yeah, there's a few options there that we can work with you on. All right, a copy of the webinar recording that will be available up on lightningtools.com, so you'll find that under webinars. Yeah, obviously not there yet, but this is where you'll find the ability to go through and access all of our previous webinars, as well as register for the upcoming webinars as well. So you can do that from there. And yeah, version 4 will be available tomorrow. So from tomorrow, you'll be able to download that and add that to your environment. And I think the last question at the moment is, does this work in hybrid model? So Office 365 and SharePoint Online. So if you're using hybrid, you should be able to get to your on-prem content into online using search. It's not going to iterate those site collections and so on from your on-prem environment using the object model. But yeah, that should work in that instance. And of course, the Microsoft 365 stuff, the Microsoft Graph stuff rather, is specific to Microsoft 365 and SharePoint Online. All right, so thank you everybody for all of your questions. If there's anything that you think of that I didn't address, or if I didn't answer your question appropriately, then please feel free to reach out to us. So sales@lightningtools.com. If it's a technical question, don't worry, just email sales@lightningtools.com. They'll direct it to the best person to answer your question. And yeah, thank you everybody for attending this. I know we've gone over the hour. There was a lot of content. I could have gone on for another hour or two. So I appreciate your patience as we explore the Lightning Conductor. And if there is anything specific as well, don't forget, you could always just arrange a demonstration through our website. There's a demo request button on every page just about, so you can go through and sign up for a demo, and we'll be happy to of course guide you through any specific scenarios that you've got for your business as well. So thank you very much everybody for attending. Appreciate all the questions, and hopefully speak to you all soon. Thank you.